Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Union representing Chicago firefighters, medics issues no confidence vote on leadership. CHICA Joe, the union representing Chicago's firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics, unanimously passed a vote of no confidence in the leadership of the Chicago Fire Department. The decision comes after nearly 3.5 years without a new contract. Patrick Cleary, president of the Chicago Firefighters Union Local 2, confirmed the outcome of the December 12 vote, CBS Chicago reported. In a letter shared on the union's Facebook page, Cleary pointed out that while firefighters were battling a blaze at the county building and city hall on December 11, the city's contract negotiators seemed unprepared to address any of the contract issues that Local 2 leadership had presented months, and in some cases years, in advance. The union also highlighted staffing shortages within the department, reporting that up to 35 fire trucks and engines are operating with only 4 firefighters instead of the standard 5. Additionally, the union has been urging the city to add 20 more ambulances, along with the paramedics and EMTs needed to staff them, arguing that the current ambulance fleet is insufficient. The air in the union hall was thick with tension, a palpable energy that seemed to reflect the smoldering discontent among the firefighters and medics who had gathered. Beneath the rows of fluorescent lights, a sea of navy blue uniforms mingled with the crisp white shirts of paramedics. Union President Mike Vargas stood at the front of the room, his jaw set and his hands gripping the edges of the podium like a firefighter clinging to a ladder in a windstorm. Tonight wasn't just another meeting, it was a reckoning. "We're here," Vargas began, his voice steady but edged with steel, "to decide the future of our leadership and to take a stand for the dignity of this department." A murmur rippled through the crowd. For months, grievances had been piling up like kindling, and tonight was the spark that might ignite a blaze. The union had called for this special meeting after a string of controversies had left rank-and-file members questioning the competence and integrity of Fire Commissioner Harold "Hal" Sullivan and his administrative team. The issues had been mounting for years: outdated equipment that endangered lives, mandatory overtime that pushed responders to the brink of exhaustion, and a glaring lack of diversity in promotions. But the tipping point had been Sullivan's handling of the recent blizzard that paralyzed the city. Fire stations had gone without heat, paramedics were forced to respond to calls in unsafe conditions, and 2 responders were injured when a fire engine's brakes failed due to deferred maintenance. For many, it had been the final straw. "It's not just about us," said Michelle Ortega, a paramedic who had been with the department for 15 years. Her voice quivered with emotion as she took the microphone during the open forum. "It's about the people we swore to protect. How can we do our jobs when we're set up to fail? When leadership treats us like we're expendable?" Her words drew a roar of approval from the crowd, and Vargas raised a hand to quiet them. "Thank you, Michelle. This is what tonight is about. Our voices, our concerns. The vote we're taking isn't just symbolic, it's a message that we won't stand for this anymore." At the back of the room, Lieutenant Dan Harmon listened in silence, his arms crossed over his chest. A veteran of 28 years, Harmon had seen commissioners come and go, each promising reform and delivering disappointment. But this time felt different. The department's morale was the lowest he could remember, and the younger generation of firefighters and medics seemed to be losing faith in the job altogether. He leaned toward his partner, Eddie Rizzo, and whispered, "Think this'll make a damn bit of difference." Rizzo shrugged. "If it doesn't, nothing will. Might as well let 'em know we're not rolling over." As the forum continued, more voices joined in, each adding fuel to the fire. A rookie firefighter shared how he'd been issued a turnout coat, so worn it had holes in the lining. A medic recounted being reprimanded for taking too long on a call, even though the patient's critical condition had demanded extra care. One captain spoke of his frustration with Sullivan's top-down management style, which stifled innovation and ignored input from those on the ground. But not everyone was in agreement. Toward the end of the session, a tall man in a pressed suit took the microphone. Chief of Operations Bill Mercer, a close ally of Sullivan's, had come to defend the administration. "I understand the frustrations," Mercer began, his voice smooth but firm. "But let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. Commissioner Sullivan has been navigating unprecedented challenges: the budget constraints, the staffing shortages. These are systemic issues that no single leader can solve overnight. A vote of no confidence doesn't help us move forward, it's divisive. A chorus of boos erupted, and someone shouted, "Tell that to the families waiting an hour for an ambulance." Mercer raised his hands in an attempt to restore order, but the room had turned hostile. Vargas stepped in. "Thank you, Chief Mercer, but tonight isn't about excuses. It's about accountability. Now, we'll move to the vote." Ballots were distributed, and the hall fell into a tense silence as members marked their choices. The only sounds were the scratching of pens and the occasional rustle of paper. As the ballots were collected, Vargas called for a short recess while the votes were tallied. In the corner of the room, Michelle Ortega sat with a group of her colleagues, her hands trembling from the adrenaline. "Do you think it'll pass?" she asked. "It has to," said Greg Lawson, a firefighter with a grizzled beard and a voice like gravel. "If we don't stand up now, when will we?" When Vargas returned to the podium, the room hushed. He held a single sheet of paper, his expression unreadable. "The results are in," he announced. "Out of 837 ballots cast, 726 voted no confidence. That's 87%. The room erupted in cheers and applause, but it was tinged with the weight of what lay ahead. A no-confidence vote didn't guarantee change, but it was a statement, loud and clear. "This is just the beginning," Vargas said, raising his voice over the noise. "Tomorrow, we deliver this message to City Hall. We demand better for ourselves, for our families, and for the people of Chicago. This department deserves leadership that respects and values its members, and we won't stop until we get it." As the meeting adjourned, firefighters and medics filed out into the cold Chicago night, their breath visible in the frigid air. For the first time in a long time, many felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but they had taken the first step together. Lieutenant Harmon lingered by the door, watching the crowd disperse. "Maybe this'll be the kick in the pants they need," he muttered. Rizzo clapped him on the shoulder. "Or maybe it's the start of something bigger." Harmon nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Here's hoping." The city's skyline loomed in the distance, its lights twinkling against the darkened sky. Inside, fires would still burn, lives would still need saving, and the men and women of the Chicago Fire Department would continue to answer the call. But now they carried with them a renewed sense of purpose, and a collective resolve to fight not just the flames, but the forces that had been holding them back. In the echoing halls of Firehouse 78, the mood was heavy, almost as suffocating as the smoke that clung to their gear after every call. The crew sat in a semicircle around an old, scratched table in the common room, their faces lined with worry and determination. For months, tension had been simmering beneath the surface like an unattended stove burner, and now it had reached its boiling point. The union, representing Chicago's valiant firefighters and medics, had just issued a no-confidence vote against its leadership, a historic move that sent shockwaves through the city and its fire department. For many, this was not just about policy failures or administrative missteps. It was about trust, respect, and the belief that their sacrifices mattered.